Why?
Hey, what's up, man?
It's done. It's over. The season is done. As far as I'm concerned, it's done.
Well, it doesn't have to be done, you know.
What do you mean it's not done?
I'm just saying not all has been lost.
But West Coast lost on the weekend, and now we've lost Nick Nat. My certainty was even wrong as well. It's just not been a good weekend. I don't want to sit down here and react to the events that happened over the weekend. I just don't. I don't want to do it.
Well, what if we just changed your setting?
I suppose I could try. Let's try. Maybe I'll feel better. Maybe I'll feel better. Well, it's been a few weeks since I've done one of these, and so my thoughts on teams in the AFL and the AFL itself has changed since probably I last spoke frankly about such topics and stuff. But we're here to talk about the things that happened over the weekend, and obviously, as you will have seen from the intro, things did not go well for me over the weekend. Friday night, West Coast lost by 1 point to Collingwood. It's the first time in 5 starts that we've lost to them, unfortunately. Still not too threatened by Collingwood at this stage, but West Coast definitely have some concerns coming out of the weekend, especially with Nick Nat being ruled out for an extended period of time. As of recording this right now, that time frame that he's going to be on the sidelines has not been determined yet, so hopefully he is available before the push for the finals, or like the serious business end of the year, because he is quite a staple mark of the team. Without Lysette in the team to sort of back him up anymore, kind of falls to the hands of Hickey, which has been doing well so far this year, but he's not Lysette by any means, and Vardy's obviously been quite out of form this year. Collingwood have their own injury woes coming out of the match as well. Pendlebury's gone down with finger surgery, so he's going to be missing for the next couple of rounds, and they've got some more injury concerns heading out of the game as well. Their list is looking even more banged up after the weekend as opposed to coming into it, so it's not great news for them heading forward. And based on the outcome of second versus third, both second and third are looking to be a bit shaky heading into the later stages of the season and going into the finals. So we'll see if they get any players back and who they get back, and how their team is looking over the next month and a half going into finals, as to how credentialed they are to win a premiership. Saturday opened up with a massive surprise to everybody concerned. Sydney lost to Carlton at the SCG. That is huge. Carlton are actually a game clear from last place now, which is massive in and of itself as well. Everyone thought just a month ago they were definite wooden spooners, and then all of a sudden they've won 3 out of the last 4 games, and they're actually looking to be a pretty decent side of the year. I did say at the start of the year that I thought that they'd win about 8 games, that they would be off the bottom of the ladder, they'd be sort of around that 14th mark kind of thing, and I do stand by that, but clearly the changing coach has had an immediate impact on the players and how they're playing. They're much freer in the scope of things. Sydney, a couple of weeks ago I was saying that Sydney were going to make the finals. They're not. They're cooked. They're done. Throw them in the trash heap. Their season is cooked. Next year, I think the rest of this year should be a reload, relaunch for next year. Put any of their players that are in doubt on ice, get them ready for next year, have good pre-seasons to lock and load, because their season now is done. The game, besides the West Coast game that I'm most disappointed in, was the Bombers versus North, and unfortunately North Melbourne, for the first time in a few weeks, have not come up, and they broke my certainty tip. So it's only my third one for the year so far, so I'm pretty sure I'm still ahead of the ledger against Justin, which is pretty good for me. But now you guys have to decide, and make sure you go check out the Discord. Link will be in the description below. Just a little personal plug there, because it's the Discord that decides what our punishment's going to be for the Footy Rivals show. So make sure you go check out the Discord and put any suggestions down or anything like that so that I can do my punishment for last weekend. As we head into the last 6 rounds of the year, it's becoming quite a tight race to the top 8, and things and teams that were sort of looking out of it, like Hawthorn and everything, who got another win over the weekend. It's actually their first win, back-to-back win over the course of the year. They're looking a smoky chance to make finals again. This season is mind-boggling with its turns and twists, and it's crazy to think that we are this deep into the season and no closer to knowing who's going to be the top 8. Another game that I wanted to talk about was on Sunday, Richmond versus GWS. Richmond kind of tailed up GWS a little bit. The Giants are looking a bit shaky. Richmond are coming back into some really good form, specifically after the bye. They're only one game outside the top 4 right now. Even if they draw level, they'll still be outside the top 4 just based on percentage. My opinion with Richmond is they'll still miss the top 4 come the end of the year. I think the other teams will bank enough wins that they will at the very least draw level on wins with Richmond, but their percentage is too far behind to catch up in only 6 rounds unless they deliver some real beltings. I suppose it depends, like I said a couple of minutes ago, depending on how the forms of these teams coming into the September period, the finals period are, there's no real challenger to Geelong for a clear dominant team. West Coast was looking to be that, and I'm not suggesting that the loss to Collingwood changes that, because Collingwood is still a top 4 team. A 1-point loss doesn't really negate their credentials as a premiership contender, but the loss of Nick Nat possibly does. Now, he's only been back for 3 weeks, so over the last 24 months, they've had to have a big life without Nick Nat. They know how to play without him, but having him as that luxury was exactly that, a luxury. And he may still get back for the deep end of the finals and stuff and just put that polish on the team that opposition teams won't be able to plan specifically for, because there's no real precedent with Nick Nat in the team for the West Coast side. So it could actually work out to West Coast benefit that Nick Nat's not in the team and may potentially be in the team to lead them in the way to finals. So I do still think that West Coast is probably second to Geelong in terms of premiership credentials. I do still think West Coast will finish second position. I've seen the run home for all of the other teams around them down to Richmond, and I think West Coast still has the best run home to finish in second spot. My top 4 so far consists of, well, the top 4 that they are at the moment, just not in that specific order. I think it'll be Geelong, West Coast, Collingwood, Brisbane. Maybe Brisbane, Collingwood swap around. Not too sure who finishes where on that front, but I do still have Richmond finishing in 5th spot, which they could actually be another team to win the premiership outside of the Dogs to do it from outside the 4. It just depends on how well Richmond adjust to the back end of the year, and coming into some form in the back end of the year, it could actually bode well for them coming into the finals. So they are a smoky chance here, even though I think that they'll finish outside the top 4. Another game that I wanted to discuss, the last game that I wanted to discuss, was obviously Port Adelaide versus Brisbane. Now, in my mind, this was never going to go the way that it did. Even though I know that Brisbane are a quality side, they're a surprisingly quality side, and I suppose precedent from years prior just establishes a negative mindset when you're talking about Brisbane and everything, because you just expect them to lose certain games and stuff. But Port Adelaide's treatment of Lachie Neale is a really questionable tactic to me. I don't see a problem with taggers in the game. specifically having one tagger just shut down a player from the game and everything. I have no problem with that at all. In fact, I think some of the best players in the business, or the best role players in the business, are the best taggers in the business. You know, Mark Hutchings in the AFL at the moment. You've got Clark from the Bombers running around at the moment. You had Ryan Crowley a few years ago. Cameron Ling is an all-time great. You've got so many examples of absolutely highly rated taggers that I think without them would be a detriment to a lot of sides. But the entire Port Adelaide team hunting Lachie Neale down was just a strange decision for me, particularly because in the early stages of the season, if Lachie Neale wasn't playing well, then Brisbane didn't win. But throughout the course of the year, Lachie Neale's been targeted more, and Brisbane have figured out a way to win games without him being dominant, which is a clear insight to the way that Chris Fagan wants to coach this team, and he's doing a brilliant, fantastic job in coaching this team. But on the flip side, Ken Hinkley, mate, maybe you should tell your players to go for the ball instead of the man, because you can put one person on that man to stop him. But if you're putting a 3-on-1 contest, right? Now, I know you won the contested possessions, but around the ground, because your players were just so focused on one man instead of 18, the rest of the players on the field for the Brisbane Lions got off the leash and just smashed your team to shreds, in particular in the first quarter. Ken Hinkley, mate, if you want to keep your job, let your players play the game, because I guarantee you we've now seen, as of today, 3 players sacked in the AFL scope this year. You'll be the 4th. Which brings me to my last segue thing that I wanted to talk about today. I am recording this on Tuesday. It's a bit later than I anticipated, I know, but it is what it is. You're just going to have to deal with it, I suppose. But today it was announced that Alan Richardson has resigned from the St Kilda Football Club as head coach. Now, he's obviously resigned to maintain his dignity and walk out on his terms, sort of thing. But make no mistake that he was going to be gone in a couple of months anyway, at the very latest. By the end of the year, he wasn't going to be coaching St Kilda Football Club in 2020, put it that way. So him walking out on his own terms and allowing St Kilda to start headhunting the process now is best for everybody, really. Alan Richardson saves some grace and saves some reputation by doing so, and the Saints get an early drop on the next coach. Not necessarily an early drop, but they get more of a time frame to make an educated decision on who their next coach is going to be. Now, Brett Ratton stands in as head coach, as interim coach in the meantime, and I tell you what, St Kilda, if you do not sign him up as your next head coach, you will have failed. He is probably the best head coach that's going to be going around, and you've already got him in your system. Keep him. Keep him. So yes, the weekend opened up a lot of possibilities with regards to the ladder, to the teams that are vying for the top 8, for teams that are vying for the top 4. GWS fall away, and they may actually miss the top 8 if they keep playing the way that they're playing. That's an interesting prospect in and of itself. Those are my sort of reactions, my observations over the course of round 17 and the start of this week as well. Very interesting, very, very interesting week for things. This has been a very, very interesting and unique year in the world of AFL. We've had 3 coach sackings midway through the year. I don't think that's ever happened before, to be perfectly honest. I know we've had coaches walk out, and probably more coaches. I think the highest coach turnover is maybe 5 in one season, but most of those happened at the end of the year. We've had 3 midway through the year. That's got to be some kind of record, right? I'm sure someone will look that up and tell me in the comments below. But I've got my question of the day, my question of the week for you guys, if you want to let me know what your thoughts are. From here, I want you to tell me down in the comments below who your top 8 is and what order they are in. Very, very interested to know what you say and what your opinions are with regards to that, because we're 6 weeks out. We should have some form of educated guesses and everything by now. It's very interesting to see who has who finished where. And who misses out on the 8 as well. I'm very, very interested to see what you guys think on that matter. Now guys, if you haven't done so already, and if you do like the video, make sure you leave a big thumbs up. If you don't, leave a thumbs down. It's up to you. It's all good. Make sure you comment. Let me know the answer to my question of the day to you, and subscribe and ring that bell to receive notifications when we bring out new content, especially for Footy Rivals that comes out on every Thursday. That's an awesome show and you should check it out. Thank you for watching, and this has been your AFL Access.